Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to help you understand some concepts and context in the war in Ukraine. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. 970 Russians are off the battlefield, and that's slightly less than what we've seen in the last few days, but not by much. 13 tanks, 19 armored combat vehicles, 30 artillery pieces. So the front lines are pretty hot still, and I expect them to stay hot for some time. We're going to do a little history lesson after I show you one more thing, and that is Andrew Perpetua. It's about 1.5 maybe to 1 Russian to Ukrainian losses. So not much has changed yet, and I don't think that you're going to see any big dips or ebbs or flows one way or another on the battlefield for some time. Okay, this is what I was talking about. We're going to do something different, a little history lesson. Today is VE Day in Europe. So this is Churchill speaking on May 8th, 1945, and we're watching this for a reason. I'll explain it in just a moment.
Yesterday morning at 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, General Jodl, the representative of the German High Command, and of Grand Admiral Dönitz, the designated head of the German state, signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea, and air forces in Europe to the Allied Expeditionary Forces and simultaneously to the Soviet High Command.
Okay, so that's VE Day in Europe, and they're surrendering to the Americans, to the British, to the Soviets, who are all on the same team.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Okay, so I'm showing you that to explain a little nuance here, because the Ukrainians are celebrating Victory Day today. The Russians will celebrate Victory Day tomorrow, and that 1 minute after midnight it ends. It's actually happened today, but it's 1 minute after midnight. It actually ends tomorrow. I don't know if that's the reason, but I always wondered, like, why do some people celebrate on the 8th and others celebrate, like the Russians, on the 9th?
We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing. Today is Victory in Europe Day. Tomorrow will also be Victory in Europe Day. We must now devote all our strength and resources to the completion of our tasks, both at home and abroad. Advance Britannia! Long live the cause of freedom! God save the King!
Okay, so that's, I think, explanatory of why Ukraine and other places in Europe are celebrating today and Russia is celebrating tomorrow. So, what did they celebrate today? Russia hits Ukraine's power grid with a massive attack on a day marking the World War II defeat of Nazism. Okay, a couple paragraphs I want to look at here. Russian forces unleashed a nighttime barrage of more than 50 cruise missiles and explosive drones at Ukraine's power grid on Wednesday, targeting a wide area in what President Zelensky called a massive attack on the day the country celebrates the defeat of Nazism in World War II. Russian attacks have damaged nearly half of Ukraine's power infrastructure since the start of Kremlin's full-scale invasion in February 2022, officials say. The damage is estimated at $12.5 billion. That's billion dollars with a B, billion, with $1 billion inflicted during the past 2 weeks. So, again, much of why Ukraine's infrastructure has been so pummeled lately has been because of a lack of air defense missiles, because we haven't provided them with what they need in order to fend this off. Politico does a really good job arguing this, how the West is helping Ukraine won't be enough to win. Now, they're not just saying they can't win. They're saying if you keep on this path, it's going to be very bad. You have to shift to that path. Okay, there's a number of articles or paragraphs here, and I want to go through this. It's really, really useful to our understanding. 2 years ago, respected military analyst Seth Jones had noted the Russian army was collapsing. But In a sharp reversal of fortunes, he now expresses a far more worrisome view, that the Ukrainian army, quote, is in a increasingly perilous position against their Russian invaders, unquote. Yeah, they are. I mean, they're having a harder time because of the way that we have drip fed them. Okay, such a strategy would require, so we have to change strategy. Such a strategy would require at least 3 elements to slow and reverse Russia's advance. First, the U.S. administration and its NATO allies would have to loosen the restrictive rules of engagement that they placed on Western supplied equipment. Britain has already eased the rules of engagement. Concern over Russia's escalation has allowed the West to talk itself into inaction and self-deterrence. You got to give Putin something. He is been masterful at deterring the West, whether it's nuclear saber rattling or don't cross this red line or whatever it is. He's deterred the West. Second, it's time to take greater risks with U.S. and Western military stocks. While the supplemental allows U.S. President Joe Biden to dip into existing inventories of weapons and ammunition, a vast amount of ready and lethal equipment remains held back for other worldwide contingencies, training, and testing. Now, let's stop there for a moment. That's done because the U.S. isn't just worried about Ukraine. They're thinking about what's going on in all different parts of the world simultaneously. So they have to have kind of their head on a swivel, like, okay, I got to watch this, but I got to see what else is going on here around the world at the same time. This stockpiling of resources is completely understandable, as commanders across the globe want to ensure that they are, as General Paul LaCamera, the U.S. commander in South Korea, always reminds his troops, ready to fight tonight. Yeah, I mean, they have to be ready just in case something happens. Okay. Yet failure in Ukraine could encourage the very war our soldiers in places like Korea stand ready to fight. Adversaries such as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un take note of U.S. hesitancy to back friends and allies. So does China, as appears across the Taiwan Strait. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky needs more ammunition, and commanders like LaCamera should see the consequences to their own missions should Ukraine fall to Russia, even if the cost comes out of their own inventories. Good point. Listen to this last line. Winning wars is expensive. That's true. No doubt about it, but not nearly as expensive as losing them. So supply them with what they need, get them what they have to have in order to be successful. Okay, Italy's president was at the UN and he was saying this. I thought this was the right tone. Italy's president told the UN General Assembly on Tuesday that Russia's invasion of Ukraine can't be solved by rewarding its aggression, and peace can only come when Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity are restored. No state, no matter how powerful or how equipped it is with a menacing nuclear arsenal, can think of violating principles, including the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence of another country without facing sanctions. And he said that the end of 2 world wars and the collapse of the Soviet Union had brought a new hope to Europe, and that, quote, Russia has taken on the great historic responsibility of having brought war back to the heart of the European continent. That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, turning our attention to the battle maps. This is Chasiv Yar a week ago. This is Chasiv Yar today. So they're actually in the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, but the map is somewhat deceptive. That's what Chasiv Yar actually looks like. And there are only, according to reports, only 670 people that still remain in the city. It's just, wow. Okay, a little bit more. I am a little nervous when I look at this. Okay, Russian media report that General Surovikin will return from exile in Africa to Russia today. After May 10th, he's expected to attend a number of formal events. Surovikin is rumored to be a candidate for position of Chief of the General Staff. Why am I nervous about that? Surovikin is known for the Surovikin line, right? He's the one that after they exited Kherson, he had his whole army get out of Kherson. Like, that should not have happened. They were happy to see the army out of Kherson, but they didn't get to kill enough of the enemy soldiers in the process, and that allowed them to keep their army and place these lines, the Surovikin lines, these row after rows of entrenchments that destroyed the hope that was the counteroffensive. He actually knows what he's doing. Shoigu is really a political loyalist, and I am far more comfortable with Shoigu being in charge of the Russian army, like as far as somebody who supports Ukraine. I'm far happier about Shoigu doing it than Surovikin, and we're going to be watching that. Last little bit. Comrades, we destroyed an Abrams! The myth of invincible Western tanks is over as he stands on multiple destroyed Russian tanks. Anyway, all right. That's it. That's all that I have today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you to my patrons, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.